unit circle, I'm just going to go with these 4 spots. So in other words, we got the 0 or 360, 90, the 180, and the 270 spot. Okay? Coordinate. What's the actual XY coordinate there? 1, 0, 0, 1, negative 1, 0, and 0, negative 1. Okay? When we talk about our trig functions, we got sine, cosine, tan. When I look at this 1, it's going to tell me the what, one of those 3 trigs. What does an x value tell us? Cos, sine, cos, sine, cos, sine, right? X is cos, sine is y. Okay, so we're going to use these values here to create a trig graph. Okay, ready? So, if my angle is 0 degrees, what's the sine value? This is sine. I'm going to do sine first. At 0 degrees, so at this position, the sine is 0. At 90 degrees, the sine is 1. At 180 degrees, the sine is 0. At 270 degrees, the sine is negative 1. And at 360 degrees, the sine is back to 0. Okay, that's going to turn into a graph. So what is the graph going to look like? So 0, 0. Can we do like 1, like a scale like that? Is that okay? So up to 1, back to 0, then to negative 1, back to 2 pi. Okay, this is called a sine curve. This is what it looks like. It's like a wave. And you know what? It's going to keep going and going like that forever and ever because you keep going around that unit circle, right? So that's a sine curve. Okay, what is the domain of this graph? So how far left and right will it go? Forever. It's just going to keep going, wave on wave. It's going to keep going. Okay, the range of this graph, what's the lowest height we go? Negative 1 to the highest height of 1. Okay, I'm going to flip the page because I have these definitions on the next page here for a second. Okay, the word amplitude means the distance from the middle of a graph to the top or middle to the bottom. So what's the distance like that? So what is our graph doing? So what's the distance from, this would be the middle. How much are you spanning away from the middle? A height of 1. So from our middle, we span 1 up or 1 down. So our amplitude is 1. Okay, now, looking back at this definition page, I also have the word midline. Is that pretty straightforward? It's going to be smack dab in the middle of this thing. And the word period is how long it takes to complete a cycle. So a full wave before you start repeating your waves. Okay, so if I started here at 0, I'm doing a pattern, a pattern, a pattern. Do you understand that once I hit here, my pattern just starts repeating another cycle? So how long did it take me to get there through a one cycle? 2 pi. Or 360, whatever kind of language you're speaking, right? And that's a normal cycle on a circle, right? So we kind of knew this about a unit circle. A full cycle on a unit circle is 2 pi. We knew sine could never go below -1 or 1, right? Because if you sine inverse something bigger, it's not working. And where are the zeros of this graph? So at 0, at pi, at 2 pi. So what increment are they hitting? Pi k. Every increment of pi they're hitting. So at 0 pi, at 1 pi, at 2 pi. It's going to hit at 3 pi again. Okay, so that needs to be in your head, this visual. So that's a sine curve. Okay, let's see what a cosine curve will look like then. Okay, so cos, so I'm going to go back to this unit circle. At 0 degrees, the cosine was 1. On my unit circle, at 90 degrees, the cosine is 0. At pi, or 180, the cosine is -1. At 270, the cos is 0. And then the cos is back to 1. Okay, I'm going to do the same scale here. So there's my 1 and -1. So 0, 1, pi over 2, comma 0, pi, -1. So this is a cosine wave curve. Okay, and it's just going to keep going. Okay, what do you think about the domain? I think it's the same, right? It's going to go forever left and right. What do you think about the range of this? What's the lowest height, highest height? It's the same. The amplitude. So if you think about the middle of this curve, how much are you stretching above it or below it? 1. You're only going 1 up or 1 down. And how long does it take you to get through a cycle? Okay, so if I started here on the top, I'm going through my wave, and once I hit here, I'm going to start repeating the same thing. So how long did this take? 2 pi. So that's also the same. Okay, but our x-intercepts are not the same, right? That's kind of the pattern of our x-intercepts. So a 1 pi over 2, a 3 pi over 2, a 5 pi over 2. Okay, so these curves almost are the same, except for, we're going to say this about it. A sine curve starts on a middle heading upward. So that's kind of important to know. The sine curve starts on a middle heading upward. And a cos curve starts on a max. And obviously you're going to head downward. If you're starting on a high, you're always going to start heading down. So those are some good things to maybe know.